here on a Wednesday. This is the 21st. This is episode 46 entitled Critical Cause. Welcome, my subscribers, to the Gaming Roundtable. Pull up a seat at the table. Grab your cold mug of beer if you're able. I'm enjoying a cold mug of beer. I've got the next several days off from work. It's going to be pretty fun. In light of some negative stuff that's happened here recently, it's going to be, this might be my second to last video, as I am being kind of forced to move, but that's neither here nor there. I got a little Vikings Wolves of Midgard, which is currently on sale for $35 on your PSN network. You should totally pick it up because it's a badass game if you like Diablo style games. I'm going to be playing a little bit, but want to talk a little bit about this whole episode, which is called Critical Cause, or kind of like the game Just Cause. It's just because I need to speak. Hello, Pam, and it's good that you have your beer. Please tune in. Here's the thing that this video is really about. Now, I had somebody recently make some comments on the YouTube that basically asked me why I am so damned critical of the company Ubisoft, amongst other companies. And I give Ubisoft a hard time. And I'm not talking about Ubisoft Montreal, because Ubisoft Montreal in Canada makes Deus Ex Human Revolution, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, and those games are just, I'm sorry, Mankind Divided came out last year, is the best. I don't care, this is my opinion, is the best game that was released that year, hands down, better than anything that came out that year. Don't care what you say. If you haven't played it, then you're doing yourself a very big disservice by not supporting this game. Just like in 2011, Human Revolution, best game released that year, hands down, nothing beat it, not even the coveted Skyrim, which I love and put over 400 hours into. You know what? Deus Ex is Deus Ex. It's amazing. So anyway, let me throw this out here. I want to explain why I'm critical of that company, probably more so than any other company, even more so than EA, and even more so than Activision, because these are publishers. Remember this. Because remember, I've been a long-time Far Cry fan. I have played the first one on PC and owned it when I was a PC gamer. Later on, when Far Cry was released on the consoles, I bought it, including the 360 versions of Far Cry Predator and Far Cry 2, which I owned digitally on a 360. Far Cry 3, not only did I buy it digitally on a 360, I also owned Far Cry 3 on PS4. I also own Far Cry 4, currently the GOAT edition with all the DLC, because I recently got it because I was just waiting for that sweet sale, and there it was. Far Cry 4 to me is the pinnacle of the series. Far Cry 5's coming out, and what's interesting about Far Cry 5 is the same thing about this Assassin's Creed in Egypt that's coming out, and I have to say this about Ubisoft: you're a bunch of fucking liars. You're just lying to us at this point. You're blatantly lying. Now, what are they lying about? I'm going to tell you what they're lying about, alright? Because remember, I'm the juice man. I'm telling you the way it is. And the way it is right now, and looking at Far Cry 5, it's very cool that it's going to be dealing with, like, cults. It's very cool that it's the first Far Cry that takes place in the United States. It's never happened before. In the entire series, it's always on some other, place. Far Cry 2 is like Africa, Far Cry 4 is taking place in Cairo, in the Himalayas. Far Cry 3, and on and on and on. But this one takes place in Montana. And one of the things that Ubisoft had mentioned in the past about Far Cry 4, and after releasing Far Cry Primal, which I have not purchased or played, but I've seen a lot of gameplay on. I've been tempting to buy it, but I hear that it's outside of some of the things that they've added on the gimmicky level. I've already talked about how they base everything around gimmicks. It's essentially Far Cry 4 in the past. And even though I probably would play it and enjoy it, and when it was on sale for $20, I was tempted many times to pick it up the last couple of weeks. I just didn't. But here's the thing about Far Cry 5. One of the things that Ubisoft did mention was that they say this about the Far Cry series. This has been stated. It is a factual thing. You can look this up on the internet. I may not get all the words right because I don't have time to scour and try to find this shit. But the point is, they basically mentioned that, when it comes to Far Cry, we cannot continue to make the game identical to the last one, because we feel like essentially what they're trying to say is, if we make another game, we make Far Cry just like the other Far Cries, then people will be like, well, this is the same game. This is one of the things that why Far Cry 4, while successful, people said there wasn't that big of a departure from 3. And some people said Primal, while interesting because of some of the survival aspects and the taming of animals aspects, essentially the same game. And they basically stated, we will try to make kind of a different game. Do some things that are different. After watching gameplay video after gameplay video of Far Cry 5, I will just basically tell you that it's exactly what the fuck we've been doing for the past fucking 3 games. It's a cult that comes into Montana in a small town or whatever and takes over, and you're going to be doing the same shit. You're going to have 2 factions to choose from that you can join. That much is for certain. You're going to either join this faction and join the cultists, or maybe it's join these 2 factions against the cult. Either way, it's exactly what we're going to see. You're going to just stay back, use some arrows, use some guns, take over an encampment. Now you took it over. The same fucking gameplay that they stated that they were not going to do, but are doing in Far Cry 5. I've scoured so many videos of gameplay on Far Cry 5, and I'm happy to report that what I am seeing is basically for $60 fucking dollars, you basically get the Far Cry 4 experience. That's what you're getting. Except this time it's in Montana, which is cool because it happens in US of A, and that's kind of a nice thing, and you're fighting a cult leader, and yes, people think, well, that's different, but it's not different. And I'll tell you why it's not different. In Far Cry 2, you were after the Jackal, right? And if you stop and think about this just very briefly, the Jackal was the guy that was supplying arms to both sides, making money, causing wars, doing his thing. And the problem is, the Jackal essentially was this mythic kind of character that you were trying to capture, take in, kill, whatever. And he, in a lot of ways, like, both sides kind of looked up to him. He was this mythical character. In Far Cry 3, you were trying to get revenge on Voss. There was a lot of spiritualism and religion. Again, another emphasis, Voss. And you kill him unceremoniously, and it really doesn't have anything to do with him in the end, but you deal with the girl, and you can have sex with her, or she can kill you. She's a cult leader. Exactly what she is. You go to the fucking Far Cry 4, and the main villain is kind of like a cult leader, like a cult of personality. He's kind of like a Hitler or a Stalin. Again, a cult-like figure. His face is on the money there in Kyrit and all that stuff. Same situation, and the Golden Path is a cult. And now in Far Cry 5, hey, that's cool. We're going to go up against a cult in Montana, this religious zealot. Except we've already been dealing with characters that are this cult-like characters to begin with. It's not new. Then I start seeing gameplay videos of new Assassin's Creed, and if Ubisoft would get off their high horse and put this shit in ancient Japan with ninjas and samurais during the Sengoku period, I'd be all aboard for that Assassin's Creed. Of course, they just won't go over there for some reason. They continue to stick around Europe and the Middle East areas. They won't go any fucking where else. Now, granted, those little side 2.5 games that came out, China and Russia, but those were shit. They were garbage games. No one fucking plays those. They're fucking shit. They're not worth the money or your time. Even if they were $1 on sale, don't buy them. They're fucking filler titles. That's all they are. Anyway, I digress. So I'm watching the Egypt stuff. And other than the fact that you can control an eagle and spot enemies, it's the same fucking Assassin's Creed we played back in 2015, 2 years removed from Syndicate. Now, not that Syndicate's a bad game. It's more or less the same stuff without the ships that we loved in Black Flag. And Ubisoft again stated, hey, you know, if we ever get a Metacritic score lower than 70 on a Assassin's Creed, we would reevaluate what we're doing. If the game didn't sell real well, we would reevaluate what we're doing and try to give a different kind of gameplay experience. So 2 years later, you're working on Assassin's Creed Egypt, and I'm watching 20 plus gameplay videos, and it's the same fucking game. But now you can control an eagle and you can spot shit. You got a pet eagle and you can ride a horse again, just like I could in the first game. Wow. Just like I could do in the third game. Wow. Nothing new. I'm still seeing them scramble up a wall. Same animation. Jumping into something to hide. Running up against somebody and killing them real quick and hiding their body. Jumping off a thing and killing a guy in the air. Same fucking gameplay as Assassin's Creed. You sat there, Ubisoft, and promised us if we can't keep making the same game, it's not fair. We have to change it up. You stated that. You said if we got a Metacritic score lower than a 70, we had to reevaluate it. You didn't bring out an Assassin's Creed last year because you stated we can't keep giving the gamers the same game year after year. They won't support it. And now we get a new game coming out, and you're making the same game again and again with some gimmicky stuff in it. Good God. Why do you think I am so critical of Ubisoft, ladies and gentlemen, my subscribers, my YouTubers, my guys out and gals out there that game? Because they continuously lie to our face, and they just want us to accept that. Really? Far Cry 5 looks really cool. So does the new Assassin's Creed. It looks good graphically. But guess what, folks? If you drop 60 bones on either one of those games, that's $120 if you buy both. You're going to get the exact same fucking experience that you got. You might as well pony up and pay $14.99, which I think is $14.99. It could be $20 for Black Flag Remastered on the PS4. Why? Because it's the best one. You're a pirate. You're not even really an assassin. You're pretending to be one. You pretend the whole game. And it's the best one. People love that game. Why do you think that they ported Black Flag, but they did not port some of the other ones? Why do you think Rogue was never ported, even though it's the sequel to Black Flag? Because they put it on the last gen. Most people didn't buy that. They were going on to the new gen. This is what I'm talking about, folks. I am critical of that company for continuously delivering false statements and false promises to us. More so than EA has ever done or Activision has ever done. Activision has questionable business practices like paying $14 for some maps that we paid $10 for, but people get all up in arms about that. But remember, cost of living has gone up, inflation has gone up, these employees now make more money than they did when Modern Warfare 4 came out, 8-9 years ago. The company's bigger, there's more overhead, they have a right to charge $15. I don't necessarily agree with it since they already got the money for that shit, but to go back in and have to remaster everything, it makes sense from a business money standpoint. Get the fuck over yourselves if you don't like it. No one said you had to pay that money. If you don't want to buy it, don't. It doesn't even affect you. But I am critical of certain companies, and they are one of them because I feel that is very important. I think it's important to be critical of a company that has continuously basically lied and shown us stuff that was untrue. What is really fascinating about this is I recently bought Watch Dogs 2 when it was on sale for $20 of E3 sale because I do like the first game. I like it because I paid $14 for it, or $15. It was $14.99. So I didn't pay that $60 price tag. Is it perfect? No, but I had fun with it because I only paid $15 for it. I'm not out that much money. But Watch Dogs 2 comes out, which had nowhere near the marketing that Watch Dogs 1 did, nowhere near the hype, and yet it is such... Watch Dogs 2 is this amazing game that they didn't even bother. They didn't even bother to market hardly at all. There was very little fanfare about Watch Dogs 2. And they wonder why it failed, because you spent almost no money on the marketing of this game. You spent almost nothing. You just all randomly, hey, Watch Dogs 2 is coming out, like this crazy announcement, not even at E3. No one even thought you were going to do one. And you barely marketed, and then you bitch about, well, no one's buying it, why isn't it selling? You didn't hardly fucking sell it to anybody from a marketing standpoint. And it's a great game. It's so much better than the first one. It's more closer to GTA than most open world games. It's in the... I look at Watch Dogs 2 as just as good, in my opinion, just as good as Sleeping Dogs and GTA and Saints Row. It's in the same category, but no one wanted to buy that game because they felt like, no, I'm not buying this game. Screw this game, you know, because they felt like they were going to get burned by it, and that's the truth. And the sad part about it is, I wish that people would have bought it. But again, one of those oddball design choices of Ubisoft to not hardly market the game, and they didn't. But I'm very critical of this company. I was very critical about For Honor. I was interested about getting For Honor until I read they use a peer-to-peer connection. This is 2017, and you motherfuckers are using a fucking peer-to-peer connection, knowing that peer-to-peer connections, you know, historically, there's going to be people with really poor connection, depending on where they live in the world. And you're telling me that you use a peer-to-peer connection for a game that's essentially, you know, and it's sometimes kind of Dynasty Warriors, but mostly a PvP game where it's one-on-one or two-on-one or two versus two, and you're telling me that you're going to use a peer-to-peer connection. A peer-to-peer connection. That doesn't even make any sense, considering that a peer-to-peer connection is freaking retarded. Like, why would you do that? Why would you make a game that really relies on input? It's a fighting game with a paper, rock, scissors thing we all know about For Honor, and you use a peer-to-peer connection. People lag out in this game all the time. I actually went online or Googled, like, what's going on with their player base, and they've lost so much of their player base that there's just, I mean, it's like nobody's playing the game. Because, and if they would have just used dedicated servers, but they don't. And you ask, why would they not use a dedicated server for a game that really needs to have where there's no lag? And, you know, we're talking about a fighting game, essentially a 3D fighting game is what people are playing, and you don't bother to use a peer-to-peer connection? Are you ridiculous? Are you absolute? Why are you even still around as a company at this point? But then you're gonna make a game like Steep that requires an always online DRM, right? Another $60 game that doesn't offer that much in the way of content, and you want $60 for it, but I have to be connected to your actual servers? Really? No, in any way, shape, or form, offline anything to do in your fucking game called Steep? I can't snowboard down a mountain by my lonesome? No. Always online, right? But then, just like fucking The Crew, which I happen to kind of like, always online bullshit, no offline anything, but then you're going to turn around and do a peer-to-peer for a game, a fighting game that needs to have no lag, no input lag, and if someone's on there with a poor connection, and then you have people who just quit matches because they're losing, it's like Call of Duty. You can't have dedicated servers for a game that really needs dedicated servers. Like, it needs dedicated servers. Like, this is not something that you all should just say, hey, no. It's ridiculous. I cannot believe that you all made this game For Honor without it. You all you make the most biggest bonehead design problems. On top of that, not only just the design issues, but then you make these dumbass statements like, we can't keep giving people the same, Far Cry. We can't keep giving people the same Assassin's Creed. We can't keep doing that. They won't buy it. We're going to try different gameplay experiences. You say you're going to do this. You say you're going to do that. But then you don't. You show us gameplay footage from Far Cry 5 and the new Assassin's Creed in Egypt, and it's the same shit. You literally went on record and said, we cannot do that. We will not give you that same game experience. We're going to change it up, folks. And what do? You didn't change it up. You're giving us the same shit. All the gameplay that I have seen on the game pretty much points to that. And unless you prove me wrong, and if you prove me wrong, I'll do a video and say, hey, I'm sorry. I'll apologize to them. But until then, I don't see that happen. So that's why I'm very critical of that particular company, because it's a bunch of crap that they continuously just feed us a line. And to sit there and tell us, hey, we can't keep making the same game, and yet you're making the same game. You said we're going to change up Assassin's Creed, make it a little bit different, because we have to. That's important. And yet, again, but you're giving us the same game on both games, as a matter of fact. And while I'm sure, because there hasn't been Assassin's Creed in a while, I know what you're banking on. I know what you're banking on. Just like with Far Cry, there hasn't been a Far Cry in a while. We're banking on the fact that people go like, hey, I remember how cool those games were, because it's 2 years removed from both games. That's what you're banking on. You're trying to bank on the fact that maybe because people have moved on and been playing other games, that you're going to sell, these other games. That's what you're going to do. That you're going to be like, hey, people haven't played our games in a while, so because they haven't done that, we can maybe fool them, and even though we've admitted that we were not going to give them the same exact game, we had to change it up because Unity didn't sell worth a shit, and Syndicate didn't sell near as well as it should have, and yada this, yada that, and it's like, but you're lying though. You admitted, you said that we cannot keep giving people the same game over and over. We have to change it up, because if we don't, people will stop buying your game. And then I watch these gameplay videos from E3, and you're giving us the same shit. It's no different. It's incredible to me for company. You know what it is? Ubisoft does not know how to make a game. They're stuck on one or two of their franchises that's made them money, and they just play it safe. Ubisoft Montreal is like, we made Human Revolution and Mankind Divided, Deus Ex, and they're both like some of the best games ever. They're like some of the best games ever created, ever. They are all games combined, pretty much. A third-person cover shooter, a first-person game, a hacking game, a thinking man's game. There's melee, there's roleplay, there's conversation systems, there's all this stuff. And yet most players won't pony up to them because it's not fucking Gears of War, or it's not a game that they're used to playing. So fuck Deus Ex, because, no, you gamers are no, you shouldn't just pass on that game because you think it's this type of game, because it's amazing. It's amazing. So anyway, this video was really trying to explain why I'm so critical of this particular company. Just like I am critical of other companies, but Ubisoft more so. Because besides their blatant E3 lie about Watch Dogs and what they showed that the game was going to be and it wasn't, besides their bait and switch they did and everything that was going to be in Watch Dogs 1 actually is in Watch Dogs 2, because they're just trying to get money so they could have a longer development cycle. That's exactly what happened. From that to, everything else, and it's just one of those things where, and like everything else I mentioned, when you state that we didn't do an Assassin's Creed in 2016 or a Far Cry because we can't keep giving people the same game year after year and expect them to buy it. We have to change. We're going to change the series. We're going to make big sweeping changes to it. And then I watch all your E3 videos, and obviously you didn't make any changes at all. You're playing it safe because deep down you're concerned that if you did change it, if you did change Assassin's Creed, if you did change Far Cry and made it generally different from the others, that nobody would buy it. You're concerned about that, so you went right back to exactly what you've always done, and you're just trying to bank on the fact that no one has played a Far Cry, no one has played an Assassin's Creed for 2 years, and maybe people will forget. Anyway, thanks for joining me today at episode 46 of the Gaming Roundtable called Critical Cause. I just wanted to kind of clarify from some people, my subscribers, who made some comments about why are you so critical of Ubisoft? There you go. There's my reasoning behind it. Anyway, thanks for joining me here at the Gaming Roundtable. Please subscribe to me. Comment if you like. Please hit that like button if you or dislike if you just happen to not like what I'm talking about because you just love this company or whatever. But anyway, thanks for joining the Gaming Roundtable, pulling up a chair and having a mug of cold beer with me. And I want to tell you this, thanks again to my subscribers. And as always, gamers, you know it, good gaming.